Okay, so hello everyone. Good morning or good evening. Welcome back to the session team. Hope you're all doing great. And I hope that everybody had a great weekend. Yes. Yes, team, am I audible to everybody? Can I just get a quick confirmation, please? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, team. Thank you all for the quick confirmation. So let's get started with the session team, right? Last week, I believe we were working on the Git topics, right? So where we tried understanding about the various topics on the, Git branching. How do we create a branches in the remote? How do we create a branch in the local? How do we fetch a branch from the remote to the local, right? That's what we were understanding. And how do we work with branching and how do we push pull request and how do we protect a branch to avoid pushing directly to the branch. So we were understanding the various concepts team on the branching, why branching and how to implement branching. That was one important topic we were discussing, and along with that I believe we also discussed about something called how do the merge conflicts will get and then how do we resolve them usually. So that's what the main topics team that we were talking on the last week. I mean, last session, I mean to say that is the one, right? So along with this team, I think we just have to understand there's one last topic in the Git, which is Git workflows, what they are and how to understand, right? And along with that, if there is anything else on the Git, we will discuss, but we will be moving on to the next topic as well today, which will be the Jenkins, right? What is Jenkins and why Jenkins? What is Maven as well? We're going to talk. What is the purpose of Maven? These topics will be starting as an introduction today, and we'll continue this week in discussing Maven and Jenkins accordingly. So this is the DevOps batch, Sachin. This is the DevOps certification batch which we are talking. No, I think you joined a wrong session, maybe, Sachin. This was the DevOps batch we started last week, and we were discussing the Git and the introduction to the DevOps last week. You maybe joined the wrong batch, so please do check your links or check out the IntelliPad support, please. Right, so thank you, team. I believe you're all in the right session. Whoever joined the last week, I believe you're all here right now. That is what it is, right? Great. Thank you, team. Thank you all again. Yeah, the last week, team, as I said, I mean, after the Git, yes, Harsha. After the Git, we will move on to them. Okay. Right. So as I said, team, there is one last thing to discuss in the Git. Right. So let me log into the VM team again just for a second so we can just check a few things again. So I hope, team, you're all able to practice, right? So nobody have any issues, or even if you have issues, I wish you were all able to contact with the support and then do the things accordingly. Oops. So the same thing, team, last week we did the same thing. I'm logging in. I hope you're all able to see my screen as well. Is that right? So any issues in seeing my screen? I'm just going into the project folder that we were working last week. So this is the one team we were working on the various things on the last week, right? The local Git repository. And then we were working on the various branches in the local, right? I mean, how do we get branch from the remote and all these things we were discussing. So this is what the commands team that we were executing to push to a specific branch, right? To switch to a branch in the local, right? And how do we commit everything? And of course, how do we list all the branches in the local, also list the branches in the local as well as in the remote, right? And then finally, team, we pushed and then we were able to understand how do we put into a specific branch. I also told you about how do we get a specific branch from the remote to the local, right? This is the simple idea about the various stuff. So these are the things, team, that we were talking about last week, mostly on the branching. And also before that, we discussed on the merge conflicts that we were resolving it. So, but again, team, while implementing the branching concept, right, different teams may adopt a different approach, team, right? Some people, some teams, some organizations may decide to work with only one branch, like master branch or a main branch. Some teams and organizations may work with feature branches, defect branches accordingly. There is a strategy that people follow when based on their project style and everything. Anybody can adopt any sort of the approach that they wanted. So those approaches, team, we usually call them as the Git workflows, right? It is very simple, team. Do not confuse with the terminology people use it or make you confused there. But when we talk about the Git workflows, team, there are three important workflows people would follow. Now, each workflow may be followed for their project size. Basically, we call it. So the Git workflows, team, we have three important workflows as you see on my screen, right? Right. So, so here it is, right? So the centralized workflow, we call it. Now, when we started centralized workflow, team, it is very simple. The initial thing that we were working when we started with Git, which is like you have the one remote master branch, like remote main branch on the GitHub. And one, you have the local master branch, like the local repository. You have one remote repository, the centralized repository, one local repository, and you have a basic default branch in it, which is the master, which is also called as the main in a way. Now that we will always make changes in the local, branch, local repository, and then you push back to the remote master. That is the default branch on the remote as well, the initial thing we did it. And then you choose to release the code from that specific branch always to the production or any respective environments you want to do. So there is no branching involved here, whether you know the branching or not. You can just work with local remote repositories and you work with it. Now, this will work only if you have a release, say that team, maybe 6 months, right? A release. Now, there is no parallel development going on. There is a lengthy of time. You have to release certain code and there is nothing to worry about it, a parallel development, right? Now, if that is case, team, you may adopt it, but this is what nobody use mostly. I mean, until unless you are a very small project, you're just starting. Until unless you grow, then you don't adopt it at all. The second thing is a team which is used widely in the market. We can say that most of the organizations follow this approach, which is the feature workflow, where we say that it is a medium size to a little large projects as well can adopt it. Now, the same concept, team, that we implemented again in the last week session, like we have a remote master or a remote main branch. Now, from that, we create like feature and the defect branches in the remote. And then we work or we ask the developers to work mostly on the feature and the defect branches. It should not touch the master main branch. It will be protected and nobody actually can push the code directly onto that main branch, right? Which is completely protected, secured, and then has to go with a different approach to update the code on the main branch. So the developers work on their own branches, push back to their own feature defect branches. Now, once they're done, team, they may choose to release the code from the respective branch if they are okay with that, right? Means they test it and they release it, and then you can go for that one accordingly. This is what the idea is, and merge to the remote master. That is what all it is to do it, right? This is the idea, team, about it. This is the idea. People may adopt this approach if they want to. And along with this, team, there is the same approach again. You may still work on the features and everything, the same as approach. But before you release, team, we may merge the changes to the remote master. Means first you update the changes with a pull request into the master branch or a main branch, you call it. Then you release the master branch as one branch made it for the release always, not the different branches from the developers we make for the release, right? So people may adopt any approach here, team. That depends on the project and depends on the organization. People may use it. I cannot guarantee that which approach your projects or teams will use it. That depends on project to project, right? So this is the second one team. This is the second idea that most of the people would use it. Now the last one team, a little advanced one, right? Little advanced one, which is used in a different approach again, which is mostly used if there is an open source project, right? And then open source project as such team, it is not owned by anybody. And we say that there are many open source projects on the GitHub, you find it. Now there are developers across the world will contribute towards an open source project. Now, in such cases, team, gathering the code from n number of people across the world and then managing the code perfectly on a single branch is not possible. Even the feature branches will become more. Remember that the different people may create a different branch in doing this. When you have that countless branches, the people actually go with this again. The remote master will be there as protected again. And along with that, they also create something called as a release branch. Means they dedicate one branch for the release. And then from that, people start creating the normal defects, features, and then their their proposals to the new code changes, everything will be done. So people work on the different branches, push back to their own branches, and they will always have to raise a request to merge to release branch, right? Remember, the release branch is controlled for releases, first of all. Now, once a release branch is controlled by the people, and they release that branch into the production or to the market. Now, once that is done, then only that if the release branch code is working absolutely fine in the market, then finally they will choose to update that code into the master branch. Some people who own that repositories will take care of that. But again, team, this is the final workflow. It is not really required for any organizations, mostly used in the open source when there is people are contributing and number of people are contributing towards the same code. So this is the idea, team. A Git flow workflow is the very hard workflow. We can say that you can avoid this one, but you can stick to the feature workflow that we worked on the last week. That is the simple idea. Okay. So these are called as Git workflows, team. People may adopt anything. I mean, mostly the feature workflow is used in the organization. So you can stick to that one as well to learn. And that's what we implemented in the last session as well. So any questions before we move on to this one? I believe that you all got some fair understanding now on what is called a Git workflow and how do you look into that. Any questions on this one? I think my mouthpiece is very far from my mouth actually, Shiv. I mean, maybe your headphones problem. Is there anyone hearing an echo from my side, team, by any chance? No. I think, Shiv, please do check your headphones itself because it might be causing from your side. Okay, because my mouthpiece is very far from my mouth. Thank you for the confirmation, team, everybody. But this is the idea, team, about the workflows. This is just a theory, team, and we implemented practically already. So first we implemented, then we understanding. So it will be easy for you to understand what we do. So this is about the thing, team. And if you have any questions, again, before we move to the next topic, do let me know. Git flow workflow, working master to production release. Working master to production. Git flow workflow, it is a release to the production. Release branch goes to the production always. Once the release is working fine without any issues in the market production, then you merge back to the master branch. That is the idea, right? Make sense? Ganesh and then Raju. First, it has to be released, only the release branch into the production. That is what is the one we do it. How do we push master and branches all together to remote? You cannot push all the branches at once, Chef. You have to push one branch at a time only, right? You cannot push all the branches at once. Choose one branch at a time, and you have to update one branch at a time only. It does not allow you to push all the branches at once. Okay. Good. So this is the idea team, right? This is the hierarchy, right? That's what you see it very clearly on the screen, Raju. First, the remote main branch will be the main branch or the master branch. From there only you create the feature branches. That is the hierarchy. Master and the feature branches or default branches will be sitting in the parallel. Now, once you work on the branches, then you update back to the master branch. That's all you do. Who pay that? See, GitHub is hosted publicly, right? So there is an organization of GitHub who is maintaining it. Some people, like, it is a community driven, so there are some kind of the funds will be collected and then they will do that. Okay. For the open source community, there is some organization like GitHub. They're raising the funds throughout the, through the things, and they start maintaining that. Otherwise, it is not going to be possible. Who is going to do it? Depends. We cannot guarantee that this is the one who is maintaining. Unless you add the files to master, you cannot create a branches, right? Obviously, right? When you initialize a repository shift, you get a default branch main, right? Whenever you are releasing a branch, whenever you're creating a repository, you always get a main branch or a master branch. So in that, you will add at least one file first of all, then only after that you can create any sub branches, right? The parallel branching, you do it. Unless you have the main branch, you cannot create any further branches. Remember that. Okay. Yeah, medium size, you can use any two models. That's your choice again. For medium size, you can choose any two models. Great. So one last thing, team, about the branching in the local again. We already know, team, how to create a branch, how to list the branch in the local, right? How to bridge local branches only, how to list only the remote branches, right? List only remote branches, for example. Git remote -r will list remote branches. Git branch will list only the local branches. If you want everything, then you can change that to the A, right? Which will list all branches, right? All remote, local, and remote branches here. That's what happens, right? So this is how, team, you can check everything. Now, if you want to update a branch, then you can do a git pull or something. If I am in the feature branch team, and I can go and do a git pull to get already up-to-date content always. That is the idea. Now you can also delete the branches locally, team. Remember, you cannot delete the branch that you are sitting in right now. So I'm sitting in the feature branch. I cannot delete a feature XY branch, but you can delete any of the other branches. Say, in order to delete a branch, team, we can do a something like git branch -d and say test. So that will delete the branch locally. It is only deleting the branch locally, team. No branch will be deleted in the remote. Okay. So this is the idea, team, the way you also can delete it, a branch. Sometimes if the branch cannot be deleted, it says the merge code something. You can also do the git branch -d -D, right? And see that. Now the both are same only, team. Remember that sometimes if it is throwing some errors, this is a forceful delete, you may call it. This is like a forceful delete of local branch in a simple way. Sometimes if that is the -d does not work because of various reasons, then you can delete it forcefully as well with this one. So both will delete the branch. One is a soft delete and one is a forceful delete. Simple idea about deleting a local branch in your local repository itself. If you want to delete the branches in the local remote team, remember the remote as such we have in this GitHub, right? So whatever the project that we were working team last week, I think it is the lead or sorry. Right, so this is the one, right? So this is the branch team. This is the one we were working on the last week. Now, if you want to delete a branch in the remote, remember that you need to have enough privileges given, because as a collaborator, we added last week, remember the collaborator concept as well. The collaborators always are the many people who are working on a same repository should have the enough privilege to delete a branch. Otherwise, they may just have the access to the push pull code, maybe nothing else apart from it. So can be controlled accordingly. Because as the owner of this project team right now, I can delete any branch that I have it here. Like I have main defect feature XY. If I want to delete the branches, you can go to the branch, 3 branches section or link here, click on it. It will show you the branches that you already have it. Now you can see this team, technically your branches, the main branch is a default branch that cannot be deleted. Remember, the default branches can never be deleted, and every repository will mandatorily have at least one default branch, right? So the other branches only can be deleted, like feature XY, this one. So if I want to delete any of the branch here, then I say that the delete option beside to that branch, right? Delete feature XY or delete the defect branch, anything you want to do. So just click on the delete, it will be gone. There is an option that if you delete a branch in the remote, you can restore it for a certain amount of time. Like you see now, the feature XY branch is gone. But if you want to restore a branch, the remote servers may allow up to a certain period. It sees that it is gone right now. Before that, you are able to see that technically, right? The understanding is that if you enable some retention, means you can set some retention policies that as soon as it deleted, it may delete from your repo here, but in the backend, the server will still persist that. So you can save or get back the branches within 1 month of time if you want to. After that, they will be deleted permanently. Now, as of now, we are in the public server, so we cannot get that option here. If you maintain your own private GitHub-like server, as a GitHub administration activity, you may recover a branch which is deleted. That can be done, team, but in our case, this is not there. Okay. I believe, team, you're all clear now about how do we delete branches as well, whether it is in the local or in the remote, and then check with them accordingly. So any questions again on branch deletions or any specific thing that you want me to go over again, please let me know. We can talk about it quickly. Yes, team. Again, team, the chat window is very small for me. Sometimes the questions may be overlapped and I might skip it. So I would request again, just to ensure that if you feel that you missed or I missed your question at any point of time, please try to repost it so that I can just go ahead and then re-answer that maybe. Okay. I am speaking loud, so not sure if the volume you need to increase from your side. I mean, is my voice low, team? Anybody? For all of you, is my voice loud and clear? Okay. Okay, great. So I think Shubham, please check your mic, maybe to adjust the volume to get your mic problem. Okay, so fetch is used to pull the branch only, right? Or I mean, the create branches from the remote. It's not exactly that only does it, Ramesh. It also does something like this. Now understand that when you are getting the change from the remote to the local, remember that the changes that are happened in the remote, say for example, here, understand that let's say that I'm checking which branch I'm in right now, say get, sorry. Understand the pull, what it does exactly. So you see that there is a feature XY branch. There is no branch here, so that we can switch the branch to the main, for example, git switch main, right? So I switched to the main. Now it says that technically, it says that the origin main, now it says that very clearly that switch to main branch, your branch and origin main, which means that the local main branch and the origin, which is a remote main branch, have diverged. It says that and have 1 and 3 different commits each respectively. It says that technically your local branch has 1 commit ahead, 1 different commit, and in the remote you have multiple different commits. Both branches are completely different here. That's what's happening. So the idea here is that the git log hyphen hyphen one line, if you see it, say there is this commit. I think this is what in the local, which I have it, right? Now there is a commit, we did it, origin defect is this version. Say that this is the commit which I have it in the remote, updated in the main branch technically. If I go and check here, you have a multiple different branches. Let's say that the commit that you see here is the 53E, right? This is the commit, the list, you have it. 129 is a local commit, you have it. And you see that these are the 3 additional commits that are available in the remote that are not available in my local, correct? That is mismatching with the remote branch with the local branch. Now, in order to get the code, remember that. Now, in order to get these commit IDs, as well as the code, the files that are committed with those changes commits have to be updated in the local. Then it says that you actually have to pull, right? Git pull to merge the remote branch into yours. Simple. Now the change is that, remember, there are 2 things we do it. The git pull, it always is recommended to get all those changes to the local, means including the files, including the commit to reflect in your local. We use a git pull like this, right? If I do a git pull, what happens? It is giving you something. Say there is something we need to set this config team. You don't want to rebase. So let's go ahead and git pull one more time. Now it is trying to do something here. Say save that, Control S and Control X will close that. Now what did what did the git pull did a team here? If you do what, you see all those commits have come up, the files have come up, the feature X, feature Y, whatever the files. It also updated the necessary, the log with all those commits. Now you see that after the 5E, whatever the commits made on the feature XY branch, I think they all come up and everything is done here successfully. So the understanding is that when you do a git pull, you get the code, right? And you get the commits updated in the local repository. That's what happens. But assume that there are some new commits available in the future. So let's say that we're going to push it to that. I think the push is rejected already, right? For example, now assume that somebody made some more changes. For example, this is what all I'm trying to do. So I'm adding a new file today. Say I'm doing it as called as a today.txt something, right? And assume that somebody else updated the master branch again, something like this. Oops. Again, think about it here, because main branch is protected team. You cannot directly commit anything to the main branch, even if you try to make a change, like it is trying to add a new patch. So say create a pull request to the main branch. The concept team will remain same thing. Always remember that every change that to the master branch, main branch has to go with a pull request. So I say that a merge pull request. So I just said there is something that I have to do it, that I changed it and I updated in the main branch again, which is today.java. Where is this? Yeah, the last file team, you see that it is the today.java, means there is a new commit again up in here, and say that that new file got here. Now in the previous scenario team, you saw that technically when we do a git pull, you got the code files and you got all the commits to the local. That was a git pull, right? Team, just give me a second, sorry. Okay, sorry team, now you're this one. Now, as we see team, a git pull will get the changes as well as the commits to the local, but sometimes people may do something like a git fetch as well. Now, git fetch team, the difference exactly between the git fetch and the git pull is that git fetch will not get any content. Remember that Git fetch looks like it is getting you the difference and it is getting the changes from the remote to the local. It is also helping you to create a branch. In the last week we did it. But the idea of the git fetch is that remember, when you do a git fetch, basically it updates some references in the .git folder, which is the local repo, but it does not get the code. It does not get the commit IDs to the local. Say if I do a git fetch now, right? It says that it did something. Now it looks like it says that there is a change, new batch, everything here. Something, it says that technically it updated in the local, but it is not that you can see the changes anywhere. Do you see the today.txt anywhere here? No, right? There is no today.txt file appeared in my local. Even if you check the log, right? Say there is no new commit made is also did come up local. Now the git fetch is for the internal purposes team. You may think about it. It is used by the git for various understanding in the local updates something. The git fetch will just does not get any changes, but it does update some references in the local .git folder, which is an internal purpose of the git, where it will try to relate some values in internal way. We don't need to understand that what it updates internally, but say that this is what it does it. Okay. The exact difference is that a git pull will get the code. A git fetch will just update the .git folder only. That is a local git repo folder, but not gets the changes to the local. That is the idea, right? So I hope team, I'm clear on the difference between the fetch and the pull now, everybody. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll continue for the next. So any questions, team? Anyone? So if you want to understand the use case of a fetch, means it is little advanced things you need to understand about the deep dive of a kit. Means I can explain it, but I would need at least 2 hours of time to go internal, what happens in the .git folder, how it updates, what references it has it, and everything. Right, this is the one I can tell you, but I need more time. I mean, this is not to that level of depth course we are doing it. So the difference which I told you may catch up for now, but understanding in depth needs more time. That's it. If you want to, when you do a git pull, it just fetch and pull both of them together, Ashwin. That's what happens, right? If you do a pull, it fetch and pull. The fetch is just a fetch. That's what happens. Okay. How to practice without any confusion. See, that is the reason I made the scenarios for you, Divya. Not sure if you're following those scenarios in the GitHub repo, which I shared the last week itself, right? If you go to this one, there is a working with Git local, working with Git remote, right? I mean, just the scenario based I gave it and the solutions I gave it. So read the solution, read the scenario, read the solution and execute it. You don't need to confuse on anything. So whatever I'm discussing, everything is being documented accordingly. So follow the guide that will help you in, making the execution without any confusions. Okay. This is about working with Git remote, working with branching, everything I documented here. So please go through that. Okay. And I'm also sharing all the commands that I'm executing actually in the class notes in the Google Drive, which I shared it, where I'm updating all these pictures, whatever I'm showing you and everything. Means whatever the things which you are drawing in the paint also, I'm sharing it, right? Like the Git VCS intro, everything. So everything is present in the Google Drive as well as the GitLab repository. So use those two sources to practice everything whenever you get time accordingly. But otherwise, team, I believe I'm clear on this topic. Whatever you learn, team, will be good enough as a DevOps engineer. Unless if you are going to be a developer, then you may learn the deep dive of the Git, which may be useful. But as a DevOps engineer, since if you're not a developer, remember everybody is DevOps engineer. If you're not going to be a developer, then whatever we learned, which is going to be good enough for you to continue further. So given that statement, let's move on to understand what we want to do next in this course. We will start understanding about the Maven and the Jenkins, right? So assume that the scenario again here, right? So far we understood the developer's responsibility is to update the source code repository with all the code that they develop, right? This is the, this is the source code repository, you may call it like the GitHub, right? So assume that this is a GitHub where the developers will be keep updating all the source code, right? Developed means whatever the software they're developing, whatever the code files they write it, they will be updating this particular thing. Now assume that the developer told you that the code is ready. Now you can run the software in a server, right? So you take a server here, like it can be any server, a development server, QA, or a production server. Before we deliver we test it, say, assume that we want to deploy the software in a dev server, for example, like where we want to test the code. The question for you all is that now can I take the code like this, whatever is given, and copy in my server and say the software is ready to use it? Remember whatever the code, I know that we worked on a dummy files, something like this. Whatever the files are dummy files. I'll be sharing a real Java code now. We'll be working on some Java project for a scenario. So there is a real Java code that I'm sharing you right now, right? This is like a real source code, means all the real Java code you have it. This is a repository team. We will be using an example to replicate the real-time scenario. Think about it. So here it is, team. In this repository, which is a sample Java application. Now assume that the developer has given the different real code files like this. If you go to different directories, you may also find a different Java code and everything. So for example, if I go, you find all the different Java code files, something related to the application, and you see that the real Java code being used here like this, right? So given a scenario team like this, you have given a project, a repository where you have the source code ready to be deployed, means ready to be used as a customer. Now, can I take this repository, copy on a server, and then say that your software is ready to use? What do you think, team? Assume that this is a web application code, maybe. Can I take this code and copy your server and then say the code is usable? Or should I have to do something before I do that? So what do you do, team? That is my question is. What we have to do? Say, assume that the testing is done. Srivani says build and deploy. No need dependency. You need to build DB connections if required, correct? You go to the UAT, right? So we need to make changes according to our need to build, test, and then deploy. Thank you. So the understanding is that just take a scenario. If you are going to install a software in your laptop, for example, let's say that a VLC media player. And now, did you take the source code of the VLC player, or you have got an executable format of the VLC source code? What do you got, team? Simple idea, right? So technically, team, whenever a software code is developed, that is a raw code, which cannot be run as it is within a server. Now you have to convert that into a deployable format. As in such, we call it as the installable format, or you may call it as the executable format. The raw code, team, cannot be run straightforward in any computer. That has to be converted into a deployable format. That's what we call it. Remember, team, that's very much important there. So whatever the code that is given by the developer, now it's the responsibility of a DevOps engineer, maybe person who is responsible to convert this code into a deployable format. That is the task that we want to do. Remember again, before you deploy into any server, we must convert the code into a deployable format. Now for that team, we might want a tool help again. Remember, how do I convert the source code into a deployable format? We need help of some tools again. That is where we talk about the various build tools, so that only we can test. There are different types of testing, Ruthvik, which I understand. So the understanding here is that, team, now this is the introduction where we are talking about some kind of the build tool. So if you look at my screen now, team, assume that you have the GitHub where the source code is there. Now, as I told you, before you deploy, we must say build code, build the code. Now the build code process, like you see on the first line here, that is called as converting the source code into a installable, deployable, executable format. But the question is that how do I build the code? Now, in that case, we just simply use some build tools again. The build tools are different from different type of a source code. Remember, what am I saying? That if you use a Java code, Java-based source code, or the development is done with the Java language, then you have a different build tools like Ant, Maven, Gradle, etc. I mean, there are different tools always will be there from the different vendor scenario. Now, if you use a Python code, then it will be different, like make or a py build. If you use a .NET based code, then it will be like a MS build or some kind of the different build tools will be there. So it depends on the programming developer uses. The build tools can be varied accordingly. So we are taking one example, the Java coding. So we take the one tool in our course, part of our curriculum, which is the Maven as a build tool we'll be discussing, right? So remember, team, Maven as a build tool now, it helps in converting the source code into a deployable format. Now, we can convert a source code into a deployable format straightforward if you want. But again, team, before we converting it, we also can perform certain validations on the code, which may be recommended to ensure the quality of the software. Remember, team, the final goal is to produce a high quality software, which is having no problems from the customer's perspective, right? That is the reason, team, you may convert it. Let me tell you, team, the build code process can involve in multiple steps as well. It is not one straightforward step you want to do it. You can do a one straightforward step as well, I'm telling you, but not a recommended process. Recommended is that, team, we follow certain process, certain steps before we package. Remember, team, the package, the last step which I mentioned here, like a Maven package, MVN is a short for Maven, team, that I'm using it. So if I say MVN package, this is the step which converts the source code into an installable, deployable format. Means you can directly use MVN package to convert it. But recommended is that, team, you follow the above steps as well as per the industry standard. Recommended to follow these steps. Now, what are these steps again? The compilation. Now, the compilation, team, is a very straightforward step that everybody knows most of the time. All right. What is the reason, team? Remember that compilation, team, that the process, it is called converting a high level language into a low level, a machine level language. Now, understanding is that, team, again, the program that is written is understood by the developer, but the machine also should understand what the developer is telling it. And the machines understands only zeros and ones, team. It is a binary code. So there is a process, the people use it to convert the source code into a machine level language, converting into a byte code, right? We call it the byte code something. That is where the compilation will happen, team. If the compilation is failed, means when you execute a compile, machine is trying to read the code, right? If the machine cannot read the code, which means it cannot process, run the application, as simple as that. So compilation is one of the mandatory steps which we may want to do it when you are doing it. Right, so compilation is the first step, team. This is a very straightforward thing. You might have done at least once in your career when you execute at least one program. It compiles, then runs only. If the compilation failed, the program will fail and everything, right? You may find certain errors during the compilation, that there are certain problems in the code. So that can be rectified at the initial, right? That is what the idea is. So that is about the compilation, team, and I hope that everybody is clear on what is called compilation. Any questions on the compilation team? Yes, team, any questions on the compilation? No? Okay, great. Now, the second thing is that team, we also say we need to call a code review process. Now, this is also called as the static code analysis. Now, what is the code review and how do you understand? So can anybody tell me? What do you think is a code review and what does it help with technically? It is like identifying mistakes. Remember that identifying or reviewing the code will help you find out any error. That's right, Ramakant. The purpose is to find out any error, but how do you perform this code review? Understand. The simple understanding is that team, again, let me tell you, for example, a scenario, take it. We are communicating in English because everybody knows one common language here. It's different people from different regions may speak different languages team. But say that we all understand one common language called English. Now, scenario is that I have written an essay in English. Say I have written an essay about 100 lines in English language. Now I gave that to you all and I asked you to review it, right? Review and tell me or correct me. So what all the things that you would review in that particular essay and tell me the result. Yes, Dean, what all the things that you would review in the essay? Spelling mistakes, okay. Grammar, okay. Content, okay. Yes, what else? Punctuation, paragraphing. Now, whatever you're saying is right. You might check for the spelling mistakes, you might check for the grammar utilization, content that I have written, the flow, the paragraphing, punctuation, sentence forming, right? So alignment, whatever it is. So tell me something, on what basis you're trying to do those things? On what basis you're not checking that things, team? Question is very simple, right? You said grammar and everything, but on what basis you're checking the grammar? Which means that team technically, not the requirement, but there is a standard, right? Right? There is a standard of writing the English essays, right? From a formal standard, again, a set of standards that you learned so far from your childhood, because you're learning the language with all your experience, you know the standards of writing an English essay. So you are comparing with a standard, every spelling, every set of things, basically, right? So the same thing is applicable when you do a code review, team. Remember that? The same thing is applicable when you do a code review. So initial days, we were not performing the code review because we were very new in writing any code. But with all the experience that we gained for the over decades, let's say that few decades, we are game up in this current market, right? So technically, team, people started making the standards of writing a software code, right? You don't need to understand any code here. Remember that. You don't need to understand any code. Technically, over the period of time, right, people have made certain standards of writing a software code. Now, there is a predefined set of rules, standards are defined and are available in a format. Now, this Maven code review, what it can do is that now you don't need to read the code. Remember, you're not manually reading the code line by line for reviewing it, because there can be thousands of lines of a code in different files. As a human being, you won't be reviewing the code line by line in that code, right? It is the tool that does the validation. So Maven checks some predefined standard. For Maven, we can give some predefined standard rule set, right, about software development coding. And then Maven uses that standard against the code that you give it. And if the standards are met or not, if there are any mistakes, the developer is not following a standard, developer made some silly mistake, right, in the code, like missing a parenthesis or bracket or a comma, such mistakes can be identified by the code review process, right? Code review is also something that it is line by line code is reviewed, but it is not you going to do it. It is the tool that does it. And tool knows already the predefined standards. Tool uses some predefined standards in the market and compares your code against it. You may also write your own standards if you want for your code. That is a different case. But by default, it can validate against the standards made in the public. That is the idea. So the code review team, it is called, that is, it says that static code analysis. It is a static code, right? A code written by the developer. We are not changing any code. Every line is read and then compared with the standard and ensure that it is good. Now we are doing only team because to, eliminate early errors so that it will not be causing some issues after you deliver a software. That is the idea, right? So the simple understanding is that team, again, a static code analysis will help you improve the quality of the software. Means before even you deploy, deliver, we are ensuring the quality is good. That is one step that will help you with, right? So that is the simple understanding team, right? So wherever you execute, Ashutosh, simple answer is that, right? If the developer executing on his machine, it will happen. But as a DevOps, we will be executing on a common machine or a common Git with servers. We execute some common place. So wherever execution happens, there the review will happen. So technically, we do it in a centralized place, not on the developers. Developers may do it on their own, but let's say that when multiple developers are working on a same project, when the code is collabed from all the developers, then we finally do again a review on the whole code merged from the n number of developers. Individual developers may perform on their individual code, but as a whole, again, we will perform one more time to understand the overall standards. That is the area. Okay. Right. So that is the code review process team, and I believe that everybody is clear. If any questions, let me know. We can talk. This can be done by the development team, right? They can do it. That's depends on the team to team, right? Who does it? Will we use the Maven again as the PMD, a program mistake detector, or a check style find bugs? Some kind of the tools will be using it. I'll show you one at least, Vishal, in the course. Okay. Once the code review is done, will it categorize based on each developer? No, it is going to categorize based on the package, method, and everything, not from the developer side. Because it is reading the code, right? It is not reading who committed the code. It is not reading any Git commits there, Ramkant. It is just reads the files only. It doesn't know which developer wrote what line. Cannot be done. That's right. SonarQube is one of the code review tool. We can do that. That's right, Vishal. SonarQube is used for code review process. So that is one thing, team. And along with that, let's take now the second or another one, which is unit testing. Now, what is called unit testing and how do you understand unit testing? So can anybody tell me? First level testing, right? Okay. How do you understand a unit testing? Test the source code line by line. Okay. Basic testing, running application, testing small piece of a code. Thank you, Sudeep. Running application doesn't come as testing, unit testing. That is functional testing, Ramakant. Basic testing, running application is a functional testing, not a unit testing. Testing done by the developer. Yes, most of the time, test under the developers at initial level. That's right. So the understanding of the unit testing is that, team, take a simple scenario again. Now I'll tell you a simple scenario, team. Take your laptop, right? Now your laptop, team, is constructed with many of the individual components. Say you have a RAM separate, you have a hard disk separate, you have a CPU separate, you have the monitor separate, you have a keyboard separate, you have a touchpad separate, and everything. Now remember, team, each of these individual components of your laptop are tested individually, first of all, when they're developed, correct or not? Can I say that, team, everybody? Can I say that? Each of your individual components of your laptop, like RAM is a separate product, CPU is a separate product, and then monitor is a separate product. Now, all these are developed, produced independently. And when they produced independently, they are also tested independently, right? This is like a units of your entire laptop. Remember, team, That is what we're calling it, right? They are tested individually, they're working fine or not, then they fixed into your laptop. Now, overall, once assembled everything, then the overall product is working or not, that's a different thing, right? So first of all, it is necessary to individually test each and every module, each and every piece of your laptop hardware is they are working, because they're produced, developed separately, they will be tested separately, and then once they certify that individual piece is separately working, then only we will assemble all those working units together to see the whole functionality working again later. The same thing with the software as well, team. Remember, when the developer are writing the code, they will be writing at different modules, like different functions, different methods, different classes, different loops, conditions, everything, right? So the developer responsibility is also to check that each individual function is executing properly and is writing the expected results or not, should be done. Now that's called unit testing in your software as well. Just like you test your laptop module separately, developers will also test their individual methods, functions separately. They quickly execute and see the results are good or not. So it is necessary, team. Remember that the unit testing should be performed, right? If all the units are working fine, then only the final product will also work fine. Correct or not, team? That's what happens, right? If any of the individual product in any of the individual module is not working, the final product will also have the problem for sure. So that is the reason, team, it is necessary that a unit testing should also be performed by the developers. I know that most of you said it is mostly the developer's responsibility because he writes the code. He will only test the unit testing always. So that is the idea, team. So developers perform the unit testing, and once they see it, they will push the code to the remote again. That is done from their end. We can also ask them if the unit testing is completed or not. That is the idea. But unit testing is mandatory, made for the developers, and every developer must perform that one. Okay. So this is about the understanding of what is unit testing and how unit testing can be done. Testing team does not do this. This is done by the developers, Harsha, as I told you. The testing team does something called a functionality testing, right? The functionality testing is different. Like once an application is installed, then we test it. Say the testing team responsibility is that once this paint application is available, they will launch the application. They will click on the home button. Oh, is it working or not? They will say test case is passed. They'll click on the view button. This is called functionality testing, right? Once a software is deployed, then only the testing team will come into the picture. Okay. Testing team test the functions once the software is deployed in a server. That is the purpose of the testing team. Okay. The unit testing is done before even we deploy, before even we packaging the code itself. The unit testing is done by the developers. Okay. What tools they can use to perform the testing? They have various tools again. JUnit modules will be there again with the help of the Maven, with the JUnit, TestNG, right? There are multiple things that are available, Vera, that the people use it. Okay. I hope, Harsha, you're clear, as well as Vera, you're also clear. Any more questions, team, on this whole process? So the first 3 steps, team, here, 1, 2, 3, will help you in improving the quality of software before even we deliver the code to the customer. That is the idea. That if you're satisfied with the results of these 3 things, remember the packaging is done. The package is like converting the source code into an installable format. Then you finally get a one executable file, which can be taken and deployed on a server technically. I'll show you the deployment as well in the later once we convert the code. Okay. But this is the overall idea, team, the way you can understand on the purpose of the Maven or a purpose of the build tools will help in performing these various steps involved in the build code process. I believe, team, I'm clear until this point. What is called a build tool and what is called a build code process so far. Any questions on these 2 things? Anyone? So if you do not have any questions, team, then let's go for a quick break for 5 minutes. We will be back in 5 minutes and we will start doing the rest. after the break. Okay. I'll see you in 15 minutes. 5 minutes, team. Sorry. Hey, so team, hello everyone again. Welcome back to this session. Hope you're all back as well. So shall we continue, team, everyone? Right, so let's start discussing team again. Like we understood now about the basic of once the source code is available, we need to convert that into a deployable format for which we might need a tool again. Those are usually called as the build tools. Now, as part of this one team, we are discussing about the Java code, which uses Maven as a build tool. And this build code process can involve in multiple steps. Like it is not that we directly package it, but we actually follow a process to ensure the quality of your software. So we understood the compilation, code review, unit testing, and their importance. So the question is that team here, once you understood we're going to build and build code process has multiple steps. The question is that team Maven as a build tool can take care of all the above steps, right? And we say that Maven is just a build tool only. Remember again, team, Maven is just called as the build tool only here in this case. Keeping that in mind, team, now how many times do we do the same build code process in a day? Now, as you are given a role in your project to work on the build code process, right? The question is that team, how many times do we have to build the code in a day, right? Every day you go and then how many times you do? Is it once a day or is it twice a day or is it a thrice a day and so on? Now, before team in the way back, say 20 years back, you might have to do, or you might be doing it in once or twice, maybe say 15 years back as well, maybe to use once or twice in a day only. But with DevOps culture came into the picture team to identify the mistakes quicker, we're saying that every push, like every pull request that is updating the code into a main branch, you may want to perform this one, right? That is what I'm saying, team. Mostly, let's say that the DevOps is that for every push to a main branch, every update to a main branch, the release branch that you do it, usually you perform this entire build code process multiple times. So assuming that team, if you have to do this 10 times in a day, the developers are keep raising the pull request and they keep updating the main branch regularly. Now you have to do the same code whenever there is a pull request happens, push happens to the main branch, you call it. Assume that you have to do the 10 times in a day, right? That is a repetitive work. Now, is it a good practice to do the same thing over and over again in a day? Now, what do you feel about the work? If I ask you to do the same thing multiple times in a day, how do you feel? The same thing, repeat, 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 repeat. At one point of time, team, you get bored for sure. And then you might tend to miss something, kind of the feeling that you feel it. Now, this is not how we work, team, again. So when you have some repetitive work to enhance the abilities, we see that we need to automate. Automation is the key, team. Instead of you doing the things multiple times, the same thing, when you know what to do exactly, right? Just ask machines to do that. Now that is called an automation, right? So you write some script, you write some code, whatever it is, and you execute the same thing multiple times with a program, rather you run it manually, maybe. Now this is where team, since we have a repetitive work in the build code process scenario, and it is recommended for automating the work. That is very much necessary. We always do that. Now, this is where team again, we introduce one another tool to you called Jenkins. Now, Jenkins is built, Jenkins is developed for automating something. Now, Jenkins as a tool helps to automate this build code process. Again, team, Jenkins tool was designed for automating the build code process always. So Jenkins is also known as the build automation server or a tool that helps to automate the build code process. Now, if anybody asking you what is Jenkins, you can tell that Jenkins is just known as the build automation server, right? Now, you understood what is a build thing right now, build code. So using Jenkins, we will be automating the build code process, right? Which means that again, team, instead of you performing the build code process, like you might want to get the code from the repository, like you do a git clone or a git pull every time there is a change. Now, once after that, you need to run the commands like say Maven compile, Maven code review, Maven unit test, something, you do it. Now, this is where team we say that we'll have to integrate. Means instead of you running the git command, instead of you running a Maven command, let the automation run them. Let the Jenkins run them. Now, this is where we have to say that we will integrate the tools into the Jenkins. Remember, team Jenkins does not know anything by default. You need to tell the Jenkins you will be writing an automation by using the Jenkins, right? Jenkins gives some few options to check them easily. That's it. So we'll have to integrate the various tools like Git, Maven, Java with Jenkins. Now we'll ask Jenkins to run the Git or Maven commands to perform the build on behalf of you. That is the logic, right? Why Jenkins is used? Jenkins is used to integrate various tools and also execute a bigger automation on behalf of you. Simple. That is the idea. So this is one introduction team. What is Jenkins and why Jenkins is actually used? Now things like what is Maven, why Maven is used. Now what is Jenkins and why Jenkins is used in a simple way. These are the 4 questions you got some answer in your mind right now. Now along with this team, let me tell you that Jenkins is also known as the CI server, continuous integration server. CI. Remember, the CI is the regular word that you hear in the DevOps world. The CI stands for continuous integration. Now, the continuous integration in the sense that, right, whatever the process that you're doing it, which is a build code process, is also known as the continuous integration process. Again, team, I'm telling you, the same build code process, the steps involved in the build code process are also called as the continuous integration steps or continuous integration process. The reason it is continuous, team, you see that we are doing the same thing over and over again. It's continuously, we are performing the build multiple times in a day. That becomes the continuous process. So people say that it becomes a continuous integration because you might be integrating the code being integrated, merged from the many developers into one branch, then you perform the build code. So continuously putting the code in one place and then performing the build code. That's the reason it is called as the continuous integration of code into one place, then performing the build process continuously. That's why it became the continuous integration process in a simpler way. Remember again, the continuous integration process, now you understood. It is a build code process. Now, the continuous integration process can also be termed again as the continuous integration pipeline. The regular words that you hear in the DevOps, again, one more is the pipeline. Now, what is this pipeline? Simple. Now, team, a regular water pipeline, what do? We attach multiple pipes to send the water from a source to the destination, right? It is not a single pipe that help you to deliver the water from Hyderabad to Bangalore. Simple scenario, right? You need a multiple pipes to be attached so that something from one source to the destination will be reached. Now, the same thing, team, here. Understand that in the build code process, the start point is the compilation always, and the end goal is to package it, right? The destination to reach is package. Compilation is the first step to ensure the machine understands the code. So the multiple steps involved in here, remember that if you run these steps involved in the build code process in a sequential order, then that will be called as a pipeline. So each stage in a build code process treat it as a pipe. Now you attach them to run automatically. It means you're performing the automation, team, you're building an automation. Instead of you running the each stage one by one, or instead of Jenkins running the stage one by one, when you click it, when the Jenkins says compilation is done, the code review run automatically, then unit test automatically, then package on. So there should be no manual work involved in this entire process. Now, if you implement a full automation without any manual work, that becomes a pipeline, right? Again, remember, if you run the steps involved in the build code process in a sequential order, or maybe sometimes in some parallel steps as well, whatever it is, a pipeline will have a source, a start point. A pipeline will have a destination or the target. the end goal where or the final outcome should be achieved. Now, this is what is called as the pipeline, right? Now, since we say the continuous integration process, now that can be called as a continuous integration pipeline as well, right? That is a simple word stream, a simple way to understand what is called as the pipeline and then what is called as the continuous integration pipeline, right? So am I clear on what is called continuous integration process and what is called a continuous integration pipeline in terms of what we understood so far? So any questions on anything? Yes, team, is everyone clear what is called CI process and the CI pipeline? We will use Maven, Gopala. Instead of you using the Maven, you executing the Maven, Jenkins will execute it. You're automating, right? Automation is done through the Jenkins. So Jenkins runs the CI pipeline on behalf of you. Right. Can you all read the line here, team, in the bottom, everybody? Read it yourself once. Instead of I'm reading it, let's say that the pipeline thing. Can you read the steps on your own? What is this have written? So you have understood there are multiple stages, multiple steps. Compile is a step 1. Code review is a step 2. Unit testing is a step 3. Package is a step 4. There are different stages, steps involved in the build code process. That's what we said. Each step has its own purpose to get some output. Now, what I'm saying is the pipeline definition, the bottom. If you run the steps involved in the build code process in a sequential order, it will be called as a pipeline. Got it? Everybody? Abhijit? Yeah, that is simple. So the same thing is called as a CI. So it becomes the CI pipeline, correct? Anybody else? That's right. MVN cycle is called MVN build process, Maven build process, Maven life cycle, you do it. Maven life cycle involved in the build code steps. Maven compile is part of the Maven life cycle. Maven package is part of the Maven life cycle, right? Maven unit testing is part of the Maven life cycle. Maven life cycle, we call it. A life cycle starts from compilation till deployment. Okay, Raju? Sorry. Right. So what is a CI pipeline again? Kushi, can you read the last 3 lines here once? I hope you're all listening to me, team. Again, I'm telling you. This is all we're going to see practically, team. This is all we're going to see practically, one by one. Okay. Again, the thing is that if you run the steps involved in the build code process in a sequential order, then we will call it as the pipeline. That is a simple one. Okay, Gushi. A CI is the continuous integration process. A continuous integration process is nothing but your build code process. The build code process involves in the various stages, starting from the compile to the package. That is what it is, Kushi and everybody. That is what all we're going to see it practically. SC is equal to source code. That's right. When I say SC, wherever it is, in short, it is the source code. The package upload into a repository, Nexus, absolutely Ganesh. That's what it is. Do automation tester also use Jenkins to automate the test? Once they develop a script for the automation, right? They might write an automation script, Sudeep, right? That performs the automation on their own, but they can integrate that automation into the, Jenkins to run it on behalf of it. Remember, team, Jenkins is just a dummy tool. It will execute whatever you say. Now, if I ask to execute a Maven package, it will execute. If your automation tester comes and asks to execute automation testing, Jenkins will execute that automation testing on behalf of that tester. Like, instead of you repeating the same work in a day multiple times, We are asking Jenkins to repeat the work. That is what we're doing it. Okay. We are putting our headache into the Jenkins. That's it. So can you tell how interviewer asked in the CI/CD and Maven? I'll share the interview questions, Raju. Okay, you can watch or read through the interview questions and you will understand that. Okay. The interviewer may ask what is called a build tool. Interviewer may ask what is a CI process. Can you explain that? So you need to explain whatever I explained now. Okay. You may ask you like what all the steps that are involved in your project as part of the CI process. So you explain that. You explain the same thing, what you do. Okay. Clear? Any other questions, team? Anyone? Yes, team, everyone. Any more questions before we go further? Thank you, Gopal, Ganesh. Okay, so with that being said, team, let's get into the practical, right? We're not just discussing a theory for understand team half an hour. That's essential before you go. Now, you may ask me like, what are the Maven live tools like Ant and Gradle, which I told you an example. Now, is there any Jenkins-like tools again? Like there are many tools in the market, let me tell you. Jenkins is one of the biggest widely used server. We have it. We have a Team City. We have a Bamboo. You have a Due Deploy. You have Circle CI. Thank you, Ganesh. Yes, all those tools are the similar tools like Jenkins. People may use it. The process will remain same thing. Remember that depends on the tool. The implementation may little vary, but the backend process, the build code process will remain same. Jenkins is an open source cloud-based. Jenkins is a paid version of the Jenkins. You may call it Ganesh. Yes. So with this being said, team, now let's get back and then we start practically implementing everything, right? So we need to install the Maven, we need to install the Java, we need to install the Jenkins, all these tools to be installed, team, one by one, like you installed the Jenkins, right? Like say that, like we install, let's say, for example, team, come up with this, yeah. So here it is, team. You can see that this is the server we are taking. Remember, team, on this server, we might have already have installed the Git and where we were working with the Git so far. Now I'm using the same server, team. You may take any VM that you have it with a VM1 or VM2, doesn't matter for you, right? So just take one of the VM, team, one of the server where we were already installed Git and where we already working on a Git. Now we will use the same server for installing various tools for running them. Now we are talking about the Jenkins section, team, and including the Maven here. Let's say that on the GitHub repository, you go to the Jenkins folder here. Now in the Jenkins folder is where you see the installation instruction. So go to the installation instruction, right? If I go to the installation instruction, team, to set up all these things which we talked so far one by one. Now here you can using the scripts if you want it, but avoid that one for now. You can go with the manual installation steps on the document that I'm sharing right now in the chat window as well. Now here, team, the first thing, since we are going to use the Java based project, we must install the Java. So these are the instructions again that will help you in installing the Java on your server. So just execute these instructions, team, that we talked about while we're doing Git, which is like the package manager instruction that downloads the software using the internet and installs on the server once you run these set of instructions, right? So the first instruction is to install the Java. The simple commands are given to you. So use those instructions to install Java. That will download Java from this website here that you listed, right? Now, the last step is to install Java, which is Java 11. We are installing it. Let's go here and install the Java simple. Now, once the Java is installed team, then we also going to install the Maven, just like the Git team. Remember, just like the Git is a command line tool, which you said at Git client. Similarly, the Java is a CLI command, we use it. Maven is also a CLI, we use it accordingly. So why we use add repository directory, we can install sudo apt install. You can do that as well. Sometimes it may not be able to find the repos, Raju. Sometimes the apt may not be able to connect to a repository. In that case, you do a apt add repository so that the system does not miss from where it has to download. Okay. In the default repositories, it knows Java may not be present. Scenarios can be there, right? So I'm saying that if the default repository does not have a Java software, then you go and install the using the repository which I'm configured. So I'm giving an alternate repo address if something is not found. So if you use a C++, the process would remain same thing debug, but the tool will be different. Process remains same, the tools will be different. Like you may use MS build in that case of the C++ or a .NET projects mostly. Now, once we install the Java team, you just say that the Java -version. Now you should see that the Java is responding. Now the Java software is successfully installed and I'm able to execute a Java command simply. That is the idea. Along with this team, now we going to install the Maven. Now, the second thing, team, in order to execute the Maven or use the Maven to execute the build code process, we will also have to install the Maven on this machine we are seeing right now. There is a specific instruction that I have given again. You may also use apt get install Maven if you want it to, but that way install some older versions given a scenario again. So with this option, I'm giving you to download a different ways of downloading and installing as well, right? So different approaches, team, need not to be one approach always. So just for your understanding, use a different approach, makes you understand in different things. So what I'm doing is this one, team, like it says that, okay, there is some kind of the 404 error, team. Remember, team, whenever you're executing an instruction, ensure that you see if there are any errors as well. Now, in this scenario, I tried downloading a zip file from the website like this. The version is 3.8.7. It says that it couldn't be found, right? Error 404 not found, which means the download is failed right now for me. There is no download happen. Now, I need to find out this one, team. I think there is a latest version might have released it. I'll be updating that one. So you can go to the Google and say that download Maven software, whatever it is you call it. Now that will take you to the official Maven downloads page. Means from the Google, you may go to that technically. The first link, it says that maven.apache.org. I think, team, there is a latest version is released actually before the document updated with 3.8 something. The latest version is 3.9.1, whereas here we have 3.8.7, right? Now that's the reason, team, the link did not work. The link which I'm using is the older version. So let's say that we can get the latest version here from the files. tar.gz, this is the first file that I can use it. If you're using on a Linux, right? If you're using on a Windows, the instruction will remain same, different. So I'll take this one, team, and I use a copy link address, the link address that I want to do it. Now let me also update the Git repositories team here. In the lab, I'm updating it. Say I'll change this URL to the latest one, which is 3.9.1. Okay. And I changed the version here, 3.9.1. And I just changed here as well, 3.9.1. Right. So I'm updating the lab as well, team, for you. So later you can refer the same document. So I just commit them to the my repo. So this is the one, team. Now instruction is the latest one, a latest version that I updated here. So I'll go here and I just say that this one. Now this time you see that it is successful and it is able to download successfully, right? Apache Maven is downloaded. Now, since it is a zip file, team, we are just trying to set up this one. Say this is what I'm going to do. Extract the zip file with the Linux tar command. and into the OPT directory. Like this is like extract to option you do it normally. So if I do a ls-l/opt, you see that a Maven directory is placed here. Now this is a big directory name team, so I'm just trying to rename that with a move command here with this one, right? We're just trying to rename that. And what happened just now? We just renamed the directory from Apache Maven 3.9.1 to a simple name like Maven here. That is the idea. Now, along with this team, we are also setting up some environment variables, which is required to execute the Maven. Mandatory, remember that. So we're just setting up some Maven home directory in a path variable on my Linux. Just execute these instructions, team, without a fail, so that you actually can run the Maven command from anywhere in your system. Now, the source command will reload the configuration. Like once you run the all instruction team, if you try to run mvn ---- version, the Maven should respond back to you. See this now? We run with the Git, we run with the Java. Now we also can run the Maven commands on my machine on the VM that you created on the AWS cloud. So this is how, team, we can set up the various tools that we wanted, right? Now, once we said with this one team, right, with Maven, we actually can perform the build code process. We don't need the help of Jenkins team, remember. With Maven, we can perform the build code process. As I said, Maven as a build tool can take care of all the above steps, right, without the help of Jenkins. How? In this case, team, you need to manually clone the repository. Like, for example, this is a sample Java app repository. I get it. You have to manually run the git command to get the repo to local. This is like every time there is a change. Initially, we don't have team anything. So I'm just cloning it first of all. For the subsequent time, you may get the repository updates in the remote. So you just do a git pull in that case, right? So here it is, team. Now you see that first we clone the repository manually by running the git clone command. Now sample Java app. If there is a change later, we just do a git pull. So technically it will go on updated code. Now assume that, team, you have the source code placed on your server like this. Now, once the source code is placed on your server, now we can use the Maven installed to perform the build. Like we can perform the various steps like Maven compile, Maven package, Maven code review, everything. You need to execute them as manual commands like this: mvn compile. Now there's a predefined commands only like git status, git branch, or the predefined commands. Maven also gives you these commands to run it. So you need to go inside the project directory and then run mvn compile. Now, when you run the mvn compile, it starts scanning your project and starts compiling the code in your system. Like this is a manual tactic, right? Means every time there is a new change, you pull the code again, git pull, and then again run the mvn compile. Again, run the, say, mvn package, right? It does something. It says that a build is successful. We can also see the results, everything. I can do a mvn package. Similarly, you may do a mvn test, mvn code review, something, right? So the understanding here is that technically every command you must run manually, right? Initial things. Let's say that it is packaging, right? It says packaging the web app, assembling the web app. It says that a building an executable like var. The executable is produced and placed under this directory here, as you can see, that simple. Which means, like, team, remember this var file is now like your executable file, like .exe file, .msi file, something. For the Java-based application, the extension is the .var or .jar, kind of the .exe something. So the idea is that, team, with package, we're able to do that with everything we're running it. So without the Jenkins, remember, without the Jenkins, if you have the Maven, Java, and Git, say that we manually clone the Git repo, we manually get into the directory, we manually can execute all the Maven commands to do this work. But if this is the repetitive process, team, I have to do the same task 20 times in a day, I'll be feeling bored for sure, right? So in order to automate this particular thing, we will gonna use the Jenkins. That is the idea, right? This is how you can understand. For Maven to work properly, is there a specific folder structure that we need to follow for the projects? That's absolutely right, Ashutosh. That will be the developer headache. So the developer will be looking at that directory structure and they will be placing it accordingly. Okay. But the answer is yes. To work with Maven, Maven reads the predefined directory structures that can be taken care by the developer for you. Okay. We create a workspace, not you create a Jenkins to that. Right. So understanding is that team, now you got the thing right, right? You got the things right without the help of a Jenkins. Now you see that every time there is a change, I'll have to re-pull the code again. Remember, if there is a change happen, I do a git pull, get the change, and I run the MVN package, MVN compile, every command again manually. And it is also difficult for me to go through this output if there are any errors and share the outputs with the developers even, correct or not? Isn't this going to be that easy for you? Everything is thrown on your terminal like this, and you need to go through this output. If there are any errors in the output, it will be difficult for you to share that errors with the developer because developers will fix the problems anyway. But to share this output errors with the developers, it is also going to be difficult for us. Agree, team, everybody? Can I say that? Will it be the same? Will it be easy for you to go through this log output and find the errors? It is not that easy, right? So how to make all these problems simpler and then easily doable? This is where the automation comes into the picture. Let me tell you honestly, this is where we need to automate it. And in order to automate, to make things simpler, everything, we use Jenkins. Remember, we are going to use Jenkins, or we will install the Jenkins now, right? And then we can ask Jenkins to perform everything on behalf of us. But again, you will have to tell the Jenkins what to do. So I'm going to install the Jenkins now, and I'll show you how to access the Jenkins, remember? Now, unlike the Maven, Java, Git, Jenkins is a UI-based tool, right? It is not the command line. You can also use command line, but let's say that we're going to use the UI. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get some specific instruction again to install the Jenkins. And we are adding some repository addresses to the local repo. So here it is. And then we just going to update once and install the Jenkins after that. Right, so once we did it, let's say that we're going to install the Jenkins, apt get install Jenkins. Now remember, team, Jenkins is going to be a process. Jenkins is going to be available like a web application. Now, how do we access web applications, team, everybody? How do you access a web application? Remember the day one? A URL is required, correct? Remember, team, on the day one, we discussed about the way you can actually access the web applications. If you go to the fundamentals here, right? So you use some kind of the basic server. Like I've showed you, team, like if you install something like the web server that runs, it automatically installs everything, team, so you don't need to install. The apt get install Jenkins will take care of necessary publishing ports, everything. So it is like every application, every web application would be listening on a specific address like port number 8080. And then in the browser, you must use always the host IP address or the host name and the port number of the process. That is how we do it. So this is the idea that you do it. If you go below, yum install, you can use it. Yum, you replace the apt with yum, Harsha. That is what you can do that. Or in case if you want to know the instructions of the one, you use the script. Actually, the script can take care of it is a Red Hat or a Ubuntu, doesn't matter. If I just go and open the script here, I think the raw URL is not working. Let me open the script and show you here. So if you go to the scripts, let me give you the things again. So go to the scripts folder here, and then you say install Jenkins or anything, right? Install Java, Jenkins, whatever it is. In this one, you have install Ubuntu or install CentOS. Means if you follow the script, you can take care of any type of an operating system. The manual I'm showing for only Ubuntu. Okay, this is how you do that. It's yum install something like yum install Apple, yum install Jenkins. You add some kind of the repo with this one. So you do this once. Okay. I hope this answers your question, Harsha. Just use the Red Hat or a CentOS or a Fedora. Use as the yum command. Okay. Right. So I already shared this link multiple times, guys. So this is the repository here. Right, so getting back to the things team that we installing the Jenkins here, let's say done. If you see that pink color screen team, just hit enter on your screen. Do not change anything, just hit enter multiple times. That's it. Now, once you see the team, the Jenkins installation is completed successfully. Now you can check the process of the Jenkins with a command called, systemctl. There is a command here which was given systemctl status Jenkins start service. Now you see this team, the Jenkins started running successfully, active and running it. Now, along with this team in this output, you also see that the Jenkins as a web application listening on a port number called HTTP 8080, right? Here it is, team. This is the 8080 port number that you see that where the Jenkins application as a web application, it is listening for us, right? Jenkins is also a waterfall team. Remember, just like the application we're going to develop now, Jenkins is also application runs as a var. It's a web application, right? So in order to use this particular thing team now, you have to go to the server in which you installed the Jenkins. Remember, now I have installed on this, I think the VM1, I installed it. Now you need to take the public IP address of the server virtual machine EC2. All right, go to the browser and then paste the browser IP address, then colon 8080. When you hit this one team, now this is where you see that your Jenkins will launch. I'm giving the URL for your reference team, but do not hit it right now, right? Because I'm using it. Don't use that. Now, when you see this one team, when you hit it, the IP address and the port number in the browser, the default port is always 8080 for Jenkins. You may configure it if you want it different, but the default is that 8080. So we are going to the server. If you install in your personal laptops, you may use localhost. But since we installed in the AWS VM, you have to use the VM IP address always in the browser. And the port number will be 8080 in the case of Jenkins by default. And then you see this unlock Jenkins page loads on the browser, which means team, it is also saying it is secure and requires the administrator password, right? Right, this one we do it here. We take this command team, remember, copy this one, copy the link which is given here, team listen first of all. The process is very simple, team. After you install the Jenkins, right, you hit a command like systemctl status Jenkins, right? And then you see the port number here, it shows as 8080. And then go to the browser or go to the AWS console, get the public IP of the VM in which you installed the Jenkins. Select the VM, select the public IP, go to the browser, open a new tab, hit the IP, colon port number, you hit it. It will load the Jenkins page for you on the browser. Now we allowed all traffic as well. If you remember, Veera, I showed you two important things. One, we said the SSH, one, we said the all traffic. So when we said all traffic, it will load the 8080 as well. That is the idea. So here now moving on here team, to get the default administrator password, you need to copy this path which is shown to you on the red color on the page. Right click, copy this path, go back to your server and hit a command like this. Copy this one, hit it like this, a cat, this one here. Now that will give you a string like this one. Now this is the password team or the initial admin password. You copy this string here and go back to your browser. In the administrator password text box, enter it, paste it, and then say continue. It will go to the next page. Now in the next page, it will ask you to do a customized Jenkins. Do whatever I'm doing team right now, later you will understand. So you suggest or install suggested plugins. Now we'll talk about what are plugins later, but say that click on the install suggested plugins, right? It will continue on to the next page where it will try to configure a default plugins required for Jenkins. Some additional configuration required for this Jenkins server that you're installing will be taken care. You need to follow the recording one more time, Prathamesh. I know for the first time, it will be difficult for you. If you do it a couple of times, it will become easier. Just understand what we are doing it. Later, follow the recording slowly one more time and then do it once. Then everything you can easily remember. The only thing you need a practice, okay? The only thing you need a practice, so do practice at least once or twice. Then it will be clear. Don't get hurried. Don't try to remember all the things. I know it will be difficult to remember n number of things we do it. The only thing you do, practice. When you practice, follow recording and you get the things done easily. So the second thing here, once you follow that step, it says create first admin user. Now you follow the default. You may enter any credentials a team as you want it, say admin. Now I'm just entering the default as admin team. You may enter anything as you want it, but just enter, create first admin user, save and continue. Now in the next page team, it will give you the Jenkins URL, the one which you used in the browser. But I would recommend you to change this public IP team. This is the public IP, remember, the public IP keeps changing when you restart the instance, restart the virtual machine, like you stop it, start it, the public IP changes, right? I hope you might have observed that in the last few days of the sessions we did. So it is not recommended to keep the public IP here as it keeps changing it in the Jenkins configuration. Remove the public IP and replace it with a private IP of the same instance. Remember, the private IP starts with 172 something. So use this private IP always in your configuration. So which will not be changed until unless you delete, terminate the instance. Okay. It is recommended to replace this IP with the private IP, then say save and finish. Now, once you say save and finish, it says that the Jenkins is ready. Now here team, you can start using the Jenkins. Now this is the default page of your Jenkins server. Okay. Remember, this is the default page when you install the Jenkins and when you configure the Jenkins with the basic default steps which we followed. Now, all these things team, whatever I'm talking it here, private IP you cannot access from the public. That is for the internal purpose, Vira. Internal within the server, the private IPs are used. Okay. That is for internal Jenkins configuration, not the use from the public internet. From the public internet, you always use the public IP only. Now, once we have the Jenkins is up and running team, now remember, by default, Jenkins is just a dummy again. Now you need to tell the Jenkins to run a Maven command. You need to tell the Jenkins to run a git command, but you do tell once only team. Later Jenkins does it on its own. Means we can ask the Jenkins to repeat the same again and again. Once you tell once. The Jenkins configurations team, what you're going to tell Jenkins is a one-time activity. Means you build once, you do the automation right. You write a script once, but you execute the same script again and again whenever you want it. So it will automatically do the things for you. The same thing here, team. We just set up the basic Jenkins now. We will start building pipelines, building, configuring Jenkins, everything. But I think if I start now, it will take more time. So maybe we'll start fresh, doing various things, configuring the various CI pipeline steps on the Jenkins in the tomorrow session, right? But before that, by tomorrow, I want all of you to follow the recording and do whatever I did it without thinking what it is doing it. That is what I said. It's like a reverse learning step. You execute first, you do whatever I did it, and then later try understanding what that it is doing it. So, right? First act, then think. Don't think and act, team. I'm telling you, in this situation, in this class situation, I'm telling you, first act, first do execute everything, then think what it is doing it. So it will help you the things. Okay. If I close the browser and need to access the Jenkins again, should I need to give the private? No, no, no. If I close the Jenkins now here, like you see, Upendra, I closed it, everything, tab, everything. If I want to reload the Jenkins, again, I have to use the public IP only. Do not use the private IP anytime. Every time you start, every time you launch, you reuse the public IP only, right? Whenever it says to log in, you may log in with your default credentials set as well. In my case, it is the admin and admin like this. So every time you have to use the public IP when you use in the browser. Okay. Make sense, Upendra? Any other questions, team, here on the discussions we had? If I install Jenkins in local PC, is it? You can do that, Ashwin. That's your choice. I'm okay, but again, you have to install the Maven in your local machine. You have to install the Java in your local machine. Everything needs to be installed in your local machine itself. Okay. All the tools, whatever the tools like Git, Java, Maven, Jenkins, everything needs to be installed on your local machine only. If you practice in AWS, we will get charged. No, Harsha. Why you will get? We are using the free tier instance, right, Harsha? We will, right? So we'll use a free tier. As long as you are in the free tier limits, there will be no charge. If you cross the free tier, then there will be a charge. So be in the limits of free tier, so you don't need to pay anything. Is there a class tomorrow? That's a great question. Since this is tomorrow is the biggest festival, the Ugadi, Gudi Padwa, whatever you call it. So I wish you all a very happy Ugadi or Gudi Padwa team, whatever you call it. But the festival is same, right? So I believe you're all celebrating them, whoever it is. I know, I think tomorrow is also Ramadan starting, I believe. Not sure, but I think it is also, I heard our Ramadan is starting tomorrow or day after, maybe. Not sure exactly the date. So whoever is celebrating their festivals team, a very happy festival to you all. So I'm not really sure whether we have a tomorrow session or not as of now, Deepank and everybody. If there is no session tomorrow, you will get notifications, okay? If you have a session, then please do join, okay? Clear, everybody? Any questions on anything that we discussed today? If there is no class tomorrow, team, you will get a notification on your email. So please do check your emails, okay? Thank you again, team. Have a great day ahead. And I'll see you in the next session, whether it's tomorrow or day after. As per the schedule, we do have a session tomorrow, okay? Yes, Ganesh, tell me. Good day, everybody. Good day. And please do share your feedback on the session, team. Hope you're all enjoying the sessions. So since it is an AWS, okay, sure. Let me give you the access. Ganesh Kumar, right? Yeah, please go ahead with that, Srinivas. Ganesh Kumar, where are you? Wait. So Ganesh, I think you can unmute yourself and talk.
Yeah, Naresh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Naresh, thanks, like Naresh. Naresh, like I'm new to like cloud and DevOps and everything. Like I work on all the on-prem servers
That's
for
okay.
all these years. So now, like I got into like a new project, and today was my first day. So in the AWS, they were asking me like, we need to upgrade all the EC2 instance. So my question is like, EC2 instance will be upgraded automatically by Amazon, right? Or we need to install the patches or anything like. Then it becomes like our on-prem, right?
No, 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 no. So there are two things. I mean, see, if you are doing it on the Amazon, there is something called AMIs, right? Amazon Machine Image. Have you heard
Yes,
about it?
correct.
So
Yes.
Amazon, so there are two things, right? When you launching an instance, basically,
Uh,
the Amazon Machine Image that you use it, it can be an image that is provided by your Amazon. Like these images, which I'm using right now, are the Amazon provided machine images using which you're launching your own VMs. Okay.
okay.
Second thing is that your organization can create your own images, like OS
Custom
images that you do,
images.
custom images, right? Custom images, basically. Now,
Yeah.
in that case, it's your responsibility to update an image, or you create a new Amazon machine image. Then you roll out that image to start your instance. So it is the option that Amazon is providing it, whether your VMs has to be updated automatically by the Amazon, means they take care of the maintenance part, everything, or it is the choice that you opted that we will take care of our own image updates and everything. If your organization might have opted for your own things, then you have to do it again. Means you prepare a separate machine image and you roll out that, or you may want to do a manual patching. How your organization is decided to do that one, you do it, right? But in the case of you go for the automated process, it is chosen or managed service from the AWS, then AWS will take care of it. So there are two options provided. So whatever
Uh,
is chosen by
so
your
how do I
organization.
so how do I find like what is the image currently they have and what is the latest image from Amazon?
Amazon, I think you need to search for them, right? AMI versions, basically. Amazon AMI version AWS. So there is kind of the guide that will be given. I'm not having the exact, like say Amazon Linux AMIs. You get it right. So for
But if
everything
it's a custom EMI, then
custom
it'll be
AMI, your organization will upload and keep it on the Amazon, right?
uh,
So they will keep it.
actually the problem is like Deloitte was supporting this client and
Mhm.
they left by last December and today I came in like I don't know like from where I need to start. So they just
Uh,
gave the console access
See
for me,
here.
like entire root
Okay.
access.
So I think you see the similar screen, or you have something new.
Yes, 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 the
If you
same,
if
not
you
yet.
if you search for something, maybe if you're not having access, so if you go to this one, say this one, quick start AMIs, there are 9 AMIs for the Ubuntu. This is
Oh,
provided by the Amazon. Now, along with that, you see that AWS Marketplace AMIs, right? Marketplace are the public AMIs, right? That are
okay.
paid, licensed one, everything you get it. And the community AMIs, somebody else prepared and gave it to you. You may find them. But along with that, you see that my AMIs, which are provided
Okay.
or created by you, owned by me, everything, you will see here. So you need to create an AMI and then you upload here, maybe, right?
Okay.
Or you may actually go ahead and then use the existing MS. You ask your team that whoever is done earlier, ask them to give the details about AMIs they used earlier. They might have the information project. Okay. So they will tell you, and then based on that, you talk to them and then update
And
them.
the client is asking me like, what will be the impact of the applications or what will be the impact of the servers if I go for like the new AMI, and what is the advancements? What is the difference between
That
the
why
old?
you're updating. You need to prepare a guide for them, right? Why you're updating, first of all, the reasons for update. So the latest AMI, maybe including the security patches, mostly the security patches, right? So
Okay,
the security patches, if you don't implement it, your servers will become vulnerable. Somebody can easily attack and then crash your things. The first reason you can give is that you have any security patches. This security patch is mandatory to secure your environment. The client will not say anything to that. Second thing is that if you are getting, because it's an OS level, right? It's not the application. So OS is always about securing your environment application. So first look at the security patches if there are anything and tell them that this is security. No, apart from that, we are also getting some additional functionalities. You need to go for the release notes of the OS, like when
so
CentOS
where
9
do I
is,
get the release notes? Like,
you need to go for the official website, right? CentOS release or Red Hat. right?
Okay.
Which
Ubuntu.
Red Hat Linux 9 or something you're getting it. So
Okay.
technically, the Red Hat will provide you the release notes for that particular Red Hat 9 release and share the guide with the customer. Say that, okay, this Red Hat 9 release has these major changes in this one. And then this is the reason we must update it. The security will also be improved. And although these functionalities we get it, you go to the official Red Hat and then find out the release notes of the latest Red Hat 9 compared to the Red Hat 8. These are the new features. They will have a clear distinction between the version 8 and version 9. So you can find them there. Okay.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
what you need to do a background work and then tell the client.
And Naresh,
An impact will be there may be a downtime because if you're updating OS, application go down. Until unless
mm,
if you go for the rolling update or a blue-green deployment strategies, then there will
that
be
is
no
only
time.
for Kubernetes, right, Naresh?
No,
That strategy.
you can implement for the EMS as well. The rolling
Oh,
update, auto scaling, right? When you go for
yeah.
the auto
All are
scaling,
not scaling. All the EC2 instances are not scaling.
there are approaches how you want to update do the auto scaling or the updates on the existing set of
Do you have
things.
any documents on how to update?
uh, See, I don't have it
Like
ready,
it's
but if
like
I find
I,
something
I
I'll
learned like some 2 years back this AWS course, and now it is like
go
everything
through
like.
one more time. Go through one more time whatever you learn, that will help you. Okay.
So they are asking me to create a big Bible and come back to them like what I'm going to do, why I'm going to do, how I'm going to do, and
I
what will be
think
the impact.
that's what the client does always, right? So yes, we have to do that. Maybe some. Are you the only person? Means what's your role right now? Because if you are doing it, you're kind of the design
I'm the
engineer.
infrastructure manager. They give the designation.
Yeah,
Actually, they're
if you
trying to
are
recruit like some
correct,
people.
so
Yeah, it's like government project, so that's a big problem. So
I
only
understand. If it is
people.
government, then it will be more hectic for you. Right. So
Yeah.
if you are a manager, then yes, that's your responsibility to tell them
No,
everything.
actually,
Everything
this
will flow.
company, like my company, Infosys, just to win this project. They got this bidding like on this project, and
Hmm.
they just started like 10-15 days ago.
Right. I understand. That's
But
what.
when I ask for any information, no one is giving me like.
Then you
And
have
they
to
say
dig
like
down.
Deloitte was the one. Like, okay, let me know who is the one like from Deloitte. I'll check with them. They say like they all left. They all left. No one is here. Actually,
That's the worst
like most
situation
of
we're
the
getting.
American clients, this is a big problem. They're not giving any information. They're asking us to
They
do some
want
super stuff.
actually. Yeah, that's always there in the IT, right? That's always
Oh
there in
my
the IT.
gosh.
You have to dig down.
I
You
like
have to write
on-prem,
your own things.
Naresh. I
Yeah,
like
I
on-prem.
see.
That was
See,
easy.
on-prem and cloud, pretty much similar, but the cloud gives you more benefits, right? That's all the idea is. So again, check with your teams. Put your concerns with the manager. If I'm not getting information, then I have to start from the scratch, and I need more time for that.
Okay.
Give me some information. Whoever is your manager, right, who's pushing you to do it, tell them
Okay.
clearly. I'm not getting information from anyone. Either you get me the information from the previous thing who implemented it. Otherwise, give me more time to implement it. But I need to understand what is there already first of all, then I need to draw on the pictures on what will be impacted, how it will be impacted, the clients, everything. I need more time for that. You request for more time and then you dig down everything. That's all you can do. Two things.
Okay. My
Either ask
early
them to
previous
provide or
client, my early previous client and everything, they give access to this AWS instance you are showing to me, right?
Mhm.
Everything like they give it, but only read only. Like they will not allow us to touch anyone to touch anything, any modify. Only read only. We can go anywhere, like, but all are read only access. So they have like Terraform or like they have a cloud formation kind of thing, and they have CI/CD like everything over there in the Jenkins.
depends on
They
the
put the
team.
code over there and they push it. That's how
And
they do it. They
that's what
won't
I'm
touch
saying
it.
it, right? That's what I'm saying it. There are different teams who manage the things. In that scenario, there is one team who's responsible for creating and managing it, one team who's responsible for reading and using them. So you are in the phase of using the things which are already being created by somebody.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you're
it was
getting it to
easy for
one
me.
level up now. You are responsible for creating everything, managing everything, right? That's a good opportunity to understand how do we create and manage it for you. But again, you need to also take the risk on, setting up the things and ensuring that things works fine even after the migration. So that's your
Okay. And one
responsibility.
more question, Naresh. I'm sorry to take much time. Like some of the applications, it got hacked up. Like it got hacked up, and like almost like 7, 8 auto instance applications are all down. So
Mhm.
my manager is saying like you need to bring it up, but you need to inform the client that we fixed it, and now it is up and running. It's good. But I was like asking like how did it hack, and what caused it to hack, and did they put like a WAF, web application firewall, or something like they implemented it, or what? He doesn't have any idea.
That
How
means that, see,
how it can
the
get hacked?
person who is actually person, if it is hacked, right, then they become down, they put it down. Then later they might have implemented, as you said, the strong firewall in the front, and then they might have to clean out all the guard things inside everything. Something might have happened, but then you need information, clear information from the team who implemented that firewall, because they might have put a firewall now to track all the incoming traffic and each incoming request, ensure that everything is blocked except the known clients, everything. Implementation of SSL can happen there. So all these things, where does it happen? How did it happen? There are certain teams, I'll tell you, the AWS teams basically who implement these VPCs for a project and everything. And you need to sit with them to understand, and you need to find out the teams who are doing their job, right? Ask them to provide the team information. At least, okay, people left, that's okay, but there is somebody who is actually in the one who implemented it. It's not one team job, right? The people who
Yeah,
implemented the
actually,
project,
yes.
the VPC creations, everything, go to them and then find out the information, the way the infrastructure is set up for the project and everything. You get some documents from them at least, and then you understand the things, what they used, how they used. That's what you can do.
Okay. And also, like, can we get a support from like Amazon? I know in Red Hat, like we raise a support case with Red Hat, and
You
they
should
work
be,
on it.
because AWS also something means if you have a problem from the infrastructure side, something you're not able to create, something is getting hacked, just definitely you can get the support from the AWS as well. You just have to contact the support team and then raise the necessary tickets and get
In
it.
this
Again,
console, do we have like something like support raising, like something? I'm just
you should.
wondering, like,
If you go to this one, the account settings are somewhere, this one, right? If you go to the settings
looks like
of
they need an architect. They mistakenly
I
put.
mean, I don't know what exactly they did it for your case, but somewhere it is there. So I think, see, for your here, I think it is support, right? If I do a support,
Support, contacts, technical support.
contact technical support team, you get it. So just go for the support page, and then depends on your, account or
Technical,
technical
yeah,
issue, anything, you
transaction.
just raise a ticket. Okay. Go to the technical and then start raising a ticket based on the issue you have.
So first,
It.
I need to understand the environment, what it is there, and what we need to do. What's that?
Correct. Correct. That's what you need to do. Okay.
Thanks, Naresh.
Yeah, great. Sure. So thank you, Manish. Take care. We for Maven, whatever we learned today that are enough. A little bit more things we'll talk Vira accordingly. I'm not still in this session. We'll be talking a little bit more things which you need to know tomorrow and day after. Can you show or tell us the upcoming journey path of DevOps tools? Shivam, are you there in the session? Shivam, are you there in the session still? If yes, you just ping yes. Hello, are you able to hear me? I mean, I'm asking Shivam because he asked me the question. So I'm just thinking he wants an answer. So Sweta, if you have any questions, let me know, we can talk. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So anyone else have any questions, or we can wind up the session here? Okay, great then team, thank you. Do you need to install Linux also? If you get the VM on AWS Cloud, which you already have a Linux installed, Shweta, you don't need to install. If you do it in your personal VMs, then you might have to install the Linux. Okay. Now you came back. I have an Ubuntu in my desktop as a Oracle VM. That's, yeah. So the path that you're asking, Shubham, I think the type of tools that we are discussing, a quick thing I'll tell you here. Where is this one? The Linux, yep. Wait a second. Thing that I've shared with you. But this is missing basic and links. Right, here it is, right? So if you look at it, this is the flow that I'll be discussing. I mean, if you see the tools we'll be discussing this course, I think we talked about the version control system get. The path which I'm setting is this approach basically one by one. So here is a build tool, Maven. Today we started, and the build automation tool with Jenkins. Now, once we're done with these tools done discussing this week, then we will move on to the configuration management with Ansible, then infrastructure as code with Terraform, then continuation using Docker and the container orchestration Kubernetes. Now, this is the flow or the path that you may look for in this course until the end of this one. I hope this helps you in a high level now. Yes, Shivam, or anything specific that you're looking for. The flow will be like this, okay? Okay, then, great team. Thank you again. I will see you tomorrow accordingly. Have a great day. Bye-bye.